Hello, hello. Daily Football Report number 28. News of the day. A lot of NFL news. Forr, how you doing tonight?
Well, Gagan, it's great to be on the pod with you. I am doing excellent as always. Another day closer to the Super Bowl. Had the NFL starting to kind of feel like, man, Super Bowl week is really here.
It's long overdue, is it not?
It definitely is. It definitely is. Did you catch any of the honors tonight?
I did not, Forr, but may we have the honor of what are you drinking tonight?
I am sipping on a mocha from Dutch Bros. No free shout outs on the pod, obviously, but got to give them some love as I'm there every single day. Yeah, man, what are you sipping on tonight?
Forr, it's stormy out here in Honolulu. Just some warm water tonight. No kombucha.
That's impressive. That's a big step. The first step is drinking some warm water.
Hey, I need it when I'm going an hour in the octagon with you, man.
Well, man, I'm excited. It's going to be a good 5-round fight. Let's. I guess we can dive into it a little bit here. I did kind of bring this up. The NFL honors occurred tonight. The big thing with the NFL honors is they announce the Hall of Fame class every year. And this year's class got released, and I have the names right here. A lot of very deserving guys. We have Rondé Barber, Darrelle Revis, DeMarcus Ware, Chuck Howley, Don Coryell, Ken Riley, Joe Klecko, Zach Thomas, and Joe Thomas. Gagan, are there any names that jump off to you there?
Oh man, all of them, but especially Revis Island. I don't think, man, he was dominant as a corner, was he not?
I think that's probably the highest level of corner play that we've seen. Probably, and we didn't get to watch Dion, in his prime live, but probably comparable, right? That's our version of Dion. He was just his own, like they call it Revis Island for a reason. You just don't throw over there.
Yeah, him and Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez, right? What a trio.
Look, that's the only time they're going to be mentioned in the Hall of Fame while we're on this pod, okay? So, I just got to give some shout out here. I'm a massive Rondé Barber fan. He's my favorite corner of all time. He's up there for favorite defensive player of the year next to Warren Sapp, favorite defensive player of all time. I just want to give a shout out. He's tried to get in. He finally got in this year and very well deserving. The definition of consistency at the most inconsistent position. A lot of love for Rondé Barber.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, he was great. He was great. He played a lot of years for Tampa Bay, did he not?
He did. He was with us from when I started watching football on, and I mean he was there from the Super Bowl. We had that piece always, even though year after year we got further and further away from even relevancy for a while there. It was cool to still have him a part of it, and he always played at a high level, regardless of what our record was each season. He was always out there performing at that Pro Bowl level year in, year out. So ton of respect for him, and I couldn't be happier that he got it.
Also, the whole career spent with Tampa Bay, and he had an identical twin who was the ultimate factor back of all factor backs, right? Tiki Barber.
Absolutely. Tiki was fun too. I think everyone enjoyed watching him run the rock, but Rondé was just next level, man. He deserves it. And that's my big takeaway. I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't give a little love to Joe Thomas as well, right?
Yes, he is probably the best offensive lineman we've seen during the time we've been watching.
He's the guy. He's the definition of do your job, right? Showed up every time for the Dogtown, for Cleveland, blocked for him at just an unbelievable level, regardless of who was the quarterback, regardless of what his team's record was. He never really got that crowning moment in football, and I'm glad that next, this Hall of Fame season, he's going to get that. So good for him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Forr, let's get into some nitty gritty in the news section. Tell me, what are we starting off with?
We are going to be starting off with, I guess this is kind of like the Super Bowl matchup that isn't happening, but should be happening. Eagles kicker. 49ers kicker, Robbie Gould, said, if you make Jalen Hurts play quarterback, you're probably going to have a pretty solid day on defense. And I guess I'm just a little bit confused. Gagan, do the Niners know that they are eliminated?
I gotta say, there's a part of me that does respect the level of pettiness that these Niners are getting to. All right, it just seems like they still believe that that game is still going on, and maybe they got beat so bad by these Eagles that they actually forgot that the game happened and they lost and they flew back to San Fran. Right? I mean, the only thing they were flying, right, besides Christian McCaffrey in the first quarter, were some punches thrown by the Niners that game, right?
That's it. They're putting up more of a fight on Twitter and in interviews and in press conferences than they did on the field that day. And you can go ahead and use the excuse that it was your fourth string quarterback, it was your practice squad quarterback and all this. But every position, every player on that team looked terrible on that game. So I'm not giving them a pass on this. You really shouldn't talk this much smack if you're the San Francisco 49ers. If you have no chance of backing it up. You've already lost. You're in the off season, right? And this team's going to be competing for a Super Bowl. It just makes you look petty and looks like sour grapes.
Look, I got to spin this, all right? This might not be a popular opinion or a popular take, but this is the cold, hard truth. Does this fall on Kyle Shanahan again? Allowing his team to keep putting this out there? Right? This has been going on for almost a week or so, right? It seems like every player, a new player comes out every day who is currently for the 49ers and, attacking these Eagles. And these Eagles are too busy preparing for these Chiefs, the game that they should have been in.
You're spot on. I mean, where's the control of the locker room? There just isn't any. And it definitely is a reflection on the coaching staff and the fact that I'm going to throw something out here that was kind of talked about, and we did cover it on the pod earlier, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, Gagan, but it might just be the mentality of Shanahan on that team, because let's not forget, Shanahan earlier this week was asked directly if Garoppolo was going to be coming back on to the 49ers, if there was even a shot that he's a 49er next season. And his response came across as something you would see people who train people to talk to the media not to do. He says, there's no chance. I don't see any chance. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't see any chance of that happening, and just shuts it down completely. And it's just very interesting. Like, it's just a mentality, I feel like, of these 49ers. They talk all this smack. They play that physical defense, but we're starting to understand and see they're more of the 40-winers than the 49ers. Am I right?
It's tough because, look, we've got a lot of San Francisco listeners. We are a West Coast pod. We put this out all the time. We get the most love from the Niners faithful as well.
I picked them to win, right?
You had them. And here's the thing, all right? And it's funny, Fo, because here on the West Coast, the Niner fans, they love you, all right? All of my fans seem to be in Philadelphia, and I haven't met them yet, all right? But let's be real, okay? I got to say, Garoppolo is the guy. Garoppolo, we forget, got them within, he got them with the lead to win the Super Bowl, all right? I'd give Garoppolo 50% of the blame, but 50% of the blame is also on your play calling, all right? Hence, Coach Kyle Shanahan at that point. And Forr, look, this is a very unpopular take as well among the San Francisco 49ers faithful. You have to keep Garoppolo. He is the most proven quarterback among the three, all right? We've got Lance. We don't know what's going on there. Brock Purdy, yes, he was great, but I bet you one thing, Garoppolo has a better resume, and Garoppolo throws a better ball. And Garoppolo, at the end of the day, there's a reason Garoppolo, he learned from Tom Brady. He learned from Coach Bill Belichick. Look at the winning record that Kyle Shanahan has with Garoppolo among the, heavier sample size that he has as well. All right. Jimmy G is just the guy. All right. And again, Forr, I know what you're thinking. Joe Montana also came out today or yesterday and said the same exact thing. You've got to keep Jimmy because he wins. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I'm not going to say you're wrong in saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is the best of the three. I also share that sentiment. I think that there's a very interesting take here of us not acknowledging how much the 49ers truly gave up in draft picks to get Trey Lance, though. That's an investment in itself. Might be a poor investment, as time has shown. But you just had Brock Purdy come in and win over that entire locker room. If there's one coach and GM that I do not envy this offseason out of any team, it's the 49ers, because no matter what decision you make, you're going to lose the locker room. You go back to Garoppolo, the Brock Purdy crowd's going to be mad. You go back and you honor, Trey Lance, and you give him the shot and you live up to what those draft picks were supposedly worth. All the people are going to wonder is, why are you doing that when you had two proven options? It's just an interesting year, and if you let Brock Purdy walk, and let's say that he isn't actually Mr. Irrelevant, my goodness, that's going to look really, really bad, right? I mean, he went undefeated up until that final game against the Eagles where he was taken out. If you look at games he played all 4 quarters, they're undefeated. It's hard to let a guy walk when he's done that for your team. And yeah, I think this is a very interesting offseason storyline. I know we could do probably an entire episode on just the Niners drama that's going on right now. But I don't think you're wrong. I think you had a very good take there, and we'll see where Jimmy Garoppolo ends up.
Agreed, Forr. And look, man, it seems like I'm not going into San Francisco on a connecting flight anytime soon. I'll tell you that.
I might actually be joining you, man. I'm a little bit closer than you are. I'm getting a little worried, man. I just called them the 49ers. But look, I love my 49er fan base. I did predict them to win the Super Bowl. I hyped them up on my power rankings all year long. But here's a question for our 49er listeners, and we do have quite a few that do tune in, that leave comments. I want to get your guys' take, because I'm wondering how you feel about this. Are you okay with it? Do you feel like it's your team still fired up, or are you annoyed with it as well? And does it feel like kind of just whining to you? I think that's a good question for the 49er fans out there.
And for my final comment on that is, where is our Seattle fan base? All right, we're a Seattle West Coast pod, but it seems like the 49er fans are the ones that dominate on the YouTube, at least, and on TikTok.
Oh, I can tell you where they are, man. They were their final year was around 2015. I believe they heard that they made the postseason. Might have came out, for some January football. Once they didn't beat the Niners, man, they're back. We're a Mariners town now over there. Okay, we're gonna talk some baseball.
Yes. All right, Forr. Let's get to the next segment. So it looks like your quarterback of your Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr. What's going on over there? What's up?
All right, man. Well, with Derek Carr, he had a 2-day visit with the New Orleans Saints. It officially concluded today. The Saints and Raiders already apparently have a trade on the table, and this is per Tom Pelissero. Gagan, do you like Carr to the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, I like it, actually. I like it a lot.
I agree to an extent. I don't know necessarily. This might be controversial, and this might kind of show how little I think of Derek Carr. No offense. But is he really an upgrade over Jameis Winston? Is he really that much better than Andy Dalton?
Well, the Saints seem to think so. He has a better career sample size than both of those. So, yeah, I suppose you could say so.
I mean, what has he really done, though? I guess is my question, right? Because Andy Dalton has actually gotten further in the playoffs. And if you want to look at statistical numbers, I'm more impressed with what I've seen from Jameis Winston than anything I've ever seen Derek Carr do. I just am throwing this out here in the simple fact that you got to understand it's not even just a simple release and sign for the Saints. It's looking like it's going to be a trade, meaning something's going to be given up. And I guess my entire argument on this is he really that much better than the options you already have on the table for free?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess so. I'm sure.
Well, Gagan, let me ask you: does he move the number of wins that if you in your mind, if I tell you Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston is starting for the New Orleans Saints, think of the number in your head of how many games you think they win. Right? Ask yourself this: now it's Derek Carr, but you're losing a 3rd-round draft pick or a potential player. Do you still think it's worth it? Do you still think that moved the number enough for this trade to occur?
I definitely do, and I'll tell you why. All right. Derek Carr is probably at least worth an additional 3 or 4 wins. In the NFC, yes, okay. And in the NFC South 4, as we've seen in the sample size that was last season, look, Tom Brady is on a temporary hiatus, right, called a retirement, but we know he'll be back. But in the odd chance he does not come back, your Buccaneers don't have a quarterback. My Panthers, we don't have a quarterback. Honestly, Coach Frank
You guys
Reich,
have 4 quarterbacks. What are you talking about?
okay, we also have a dilemma just like the 49ers, right, where you don't have one actual quarterback. But the quarterback that we have, he's actually coaching the team, Coach Frank Reich, all right? He might as well get out there and be a player coach. And but you know what, though? In all seriousness, I will say that Eason is the guy. Eason should start. And I'm going to continue to push this narrative and put it out into the universe, all right? And yes, Eason's a Washingtonian, so we got to give him some love there. But I genuinely believe that. He's been in Frank Reich's system before. The other part look, Derek Carr is a vet. He knows he's got 2 seasons left, perhaps, if that. I like him winning the NFC South. I think the Saints, they've got pieces. Him and Kamara, come on. He loves checking down the passes.
Look, you know what? It would be nice if we knew the certainty of a Michael Thomas who's been injury prone for what feels like 3 years now. Also, Alvin Kamara, you brought him up. Fantastic running back. I agree, but we also need to remember he does have legal troubles pending that will likely result in a suspension. If I'm Derek Carr and I control my own destiny in terms of a cut and release type situation where I can go sign with any team, you can't look at a team like Tampa Bay and the New Orleans Saints roster and go, oh man, New Orleans is where it's at. I would actually even make the argument here that Carolina with Frank Reich in town, there's almost an upsell for me there. I have better coaching. I have a young, angry defense. I would almost argue the Panthers are more attractive. Argument, look, he could be wanted by the entire NFC South. I could see the Falcons making that phone call, and there's a case to be made the Falcons are more attractive. I just don't see why Derek Carr would want to go to New Orleans.
All right. Fair enough. On to the next topic. All right. We're going to talk about my secondary team the past season because of this quarterback and this quarterback only. He's named after a famous cold beverage. Commanders, they have interest in bringing back Taylor Heineke, all right, per The Athletic. If you are Heineke, Forr, do you even want to come back after they benched you with the winning record of 5-3-1 after that awful start?
If I'm Taylor Heineke, I've already blocked their phone number. I've already cut all ties to the organization, and I've decided I am moving my talents elsewhere. It's no secret that the Washington Commanders have the most dysfunctional and just awfully ran organization from top to bottom. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, well, I like Ron Rivera. I think he's shown this year and last year the game is passing him by. And if I'm a guy like Heineke who got the team to rally behind me, I've gotten them into the playoffs. I played a playoff game for them very well. I have a real issue with being benched for Carson Wentz in a crucial moment in the season. I don't think that's forgivable. And that was the gamble that the Commanders took in that situation, was to lose all trust with Heineke. They thought that it was worth it. I don't think it was a good move, Gagan. So I'm going to give you the floor on this because I know you're a big Taylor Heineke guy. You actually watch more Commanders games than anyone that I know. I want to have you give your take on this.
And Forr, before you tell me anything, did I not tell you that the Commanders would beat the Eagles on Monday Night Primetime? I told you Taylor Heineke and the Commanders, take them.
I'm just going to say you may or may not have been at a casino the day before with me, and you might have locked something in. But I'm just going to say fantastic call by you. That was actually your lock of the week, so I couldn't forget that.
Thank you. And again, it was a low probability, but you got to go with your gut and your heart sometimes. And speaking of gut, that's all Taylor Heineke has. All right. The thing is this guy, he works so hard. And at the end of the day, my 3 quarterback question, all right, do you want to have a drink with the guy? Does the team want to hang out with the guy? Does the team actually enjoy him, right? And the third is, do you want him as your franchise quarterback? And Heineke, it's hard not to almost give him even that third check mark. Okay, he works so hard for. Look, the guy gets wins, and that's the most important metric as a quarterback. All right, and the thing is, if you're Heineke, no, you cannot go back. All right, And it's tough because you think that they would have just started him earlier in the season, but no, they didn't do that. And then even the year before that, look, Heineke got the Commanders into the playoffs before as well. All right. He took Tom Brady to the wire. All right. Your Buccaneers, that was their toughest playoff game that season in the 2020 Super Bowl run. Here's the thing, Heineke, you got to go to the free agency and maybe come to the Houston Texans, right? Maybe go to the best team available and where you're most likely to start. What do you think?
If we're looking at it from a perspective of will the Texans draft a quarterback and probably start them, then I wouldn't want him to go there. I want him to have a real shot at success. I don't think going from the Commanders to the Texans would give him that level of success. And so I'm over here. I think, honestly, there's a lot of logical spots. I'm going to throw something out here. I'm going to see if it sticks. If I am the Seattle Seahawks and Geno's wanting that amount of money, and I've seen what Taylor Heineke can do with the Commanders, and I know at what level I could get him to play at potentially, tell me Taylor Heineke with that Seattle West Coast offense just doesn't excite you.
I like that a lot. I like that quite a bit.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's options here. Obviously, we're kind of fantasy quarterbacking, but
look,
yeah.
If I'm Heineke, there's only two teams, and they're both in the AFC. You either go to Pittsburgh and you take over when Pickett struggles. All right, Pickett's stats aren't there, right? So you got a good probability there. Or the Jets. Why not go in there? You're Heineke. Come on, you'll win it out.
We've kind of talked about how quarterbacks or teams have a quarterback A, B, and C tier, right? Teams that need quarterbacks. There's that first one that you want. That could be the Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson tier. Then you have your B tier. That might be your Derek Carr or your, somebody like that. Somebody that's kind of a journeyman but has a really high upside.
Even Garoppolo in that tier.
There you go. Perfect B tier quarterback. And then you have your C tier. I think if you're going to have a C-tier quarterback, you couldn't have a better C-tier quarterback than Taylor Heineke. And I mean that with all respect. If you end up with Taylor Heineke, it's not the worst case situation because he's already proven he can win. The guy went 5-3 this year. You have to respect that.
Agreed. All right, Forr. Let's get on to the next topic. What do you got?
All right, man. Well, moving on to the next topic here. We are going to be moving on to Giselle and Tom Brady drama. Gagan, I know this is your favorite thing to talk about, but it looks like that Tom Brady, when he came to that final decision and he released that video on the beach, he had apparently just talked with Giselle. They talked it through, and this is all per the New York Post. She was definitely an influence on that decision. Do you think this was Tom's decision, or was this a decision made for Tom?
Oh, boy. You just set me up with a lot of gasoline and told me to go start a fire, did you not?
I did. I wanted to set you up here. I wanted to give you the first take because I have an angle in my head of kind of how I'm feeling about this, but I want to get your take.
All right, Forr. First and foremost, I've said this all along. He's not retired. Okay, this isn't Tom. Tom's not going out this way. The fact of the matter is, this is his family wanting him out. Maybe his kids, maybe his ex-wife, and maybe his parents. All right, but anyone remotely close to Tom, from his trainer and his his crew, the Edelmans, the Gronks, they know he wants to play. They all want him to play. That's really my take. Is I think this is Tom trying to appease others in his life, but I don't think he's going to be able to appease himself. So therefore, he will probably do something similar to last season, where he steps back onto the field. All right, there's no way he wants to end his legacy to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in a home playoff loss, right?
Nobody wants to go out that way. Tom, probably the worst way he could have gone out is getting absolutely thrashed in a playoff game. I'm going to give you this. I think you summed it up perfectly. We kind of have the same take. I don't believe this was a decision that Tom made. If Tom, true to his heart, made his decision, he would still be on the field. There comes up the problem, though, of would Tom ever retire? And I'm truly meaning this in the sense of eventually the body would stop. and he would know. But Tom is the kind of guy that wants to play. I could see, I hate to talk about pro wrestling on this podcast, but I have a little good analogy here. You look at some of these old wrestlers that don't know when to hang up the cleats, and they're in there until they're 75 or 76, and they won't hang up the cleats. I could see Tom Brady being like that. It's one of those things. He needs somebody to be able to push him off and push him out of the league. And there's nothing more that he's ever going to do that's going to be fulfilling for him. He could win another Super Bowl, sure, but then he's going to want another. And that's just how he operates. So I'm glad that he had the help to move on. But, yeah, it's one of those, man. I think you're right. It wasn't his decision.
Look for. There's a great Coach Nick Saban line, and I'm slightly paraphrasing it. And they asked the great Coach Nick Saban, Coach, what are you doing every year, right? And he said, look, it's about the chase, all right? And if you don't have the chase, then what do you have, all right? And they ask him this as he wins year over year over year. And ultimately, I think there's a lot of people out there that can understand that, right? I truly believe that. So that's really what it comes down to. Is I think if you're Brady, that's how you feel. It's not even about the Super Bowl, but it's about the chase. And that's what he's been doing for all of these seasons. So if you're Tom, there's no way you're done with that chase. All right. Life is a marathon, and he's still going at it.
That's very fair. All right. Moving on to the next topic here in the NFL news of the day. We have Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones telling NFL Network he is sick. Several Chiefs players are reportedly battling illness, and this is per James Palmer TV. Gagan, is this a big deal 3 days out of the Super Bowl?
Nah, this is not a big deal. They'll be fine. They'll be hydrating, and this happens every Super Bowl. We'll be fine. What do you think?
Man, I don't know about that. I think this is definitely something to keep an eye on. You're already dealing with the mystery surrounding Mahomes' injury. Now, as somebody who was definitely backing the Chiefs and thinking that we had a good shot here on the betting side of things, I'm now curious as to, well, who's sick and how many players are sick? And now, is this going to affect the game on Sunday? There's a real possibility that these players aren't going to be feeling 100%. And that you already are playing in the biggest game of your life. You're going to have butterflies. You're going to be feeling it. You're not going to be feeling great. This doesn't sound good. And if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm a little bit nervous.
Well, first and foremost, it's a dome, it's a covered stadium, right? So they'll be fine. It's in Arizona. It's not in the South where there's humidity. We'll be just fine. I really don't think it's a big deal. But again, I don't know the story and we don't know the details, right? So we'll kind of see how this plays out.
Fair enough. And the last bit of news that we had for the day, and this is kind of a big one here, there was a report that came out that people inside the Jets organization truly believed that Zach Wilson was better than Trevor Lawrence heading into the 2021 draft. This is per Rich Cimini. Assistant GM Rex Hogan and Mike LaFleur were driving forces behind him being picked second. Now, Gagan, you got to talk me through this here. Is there in any world a chance that Zach Wilson is better than Trevor Lawrence?
Maybe in the dating older women department, perhaps.
That's a low blow, man. That is a low blow.
Okay, look. I think what the scouts are probably looking at is he had BYU talent, and whereas Lawrence had Clemson and top team talent, right? And so I'm sure that there is something to be said if you looked at Zach Wilson, he has less to work with than what Lawrence had, right? So maybe that is what jumped out to them. That's the only thing I can think of. What about you?
Look, there's no secret that between you and I, Gagan, and as the pod is going to learn, I'm a massive, massive Zach Wilson fan. I may or may not have released an article at one point about why Zach Wilson could be a future Hall of Fame level talent. I loved him at college, and I thought his pros transition was going to be a little bit smoother than what it has been. He hasn't looked great It's getting harder and harder to defend him. But in terms of natural throwing talent and honestly, overall athleticism, I'm okay with Zach Wilson. I do think it's a rough debate now. I'm definitely not looking great. But if we had looked at Trevor Lawrence with his first year in the NFL, it didn't look great either. I understand Zach Wilson needs to grow up. There's a lot of things there. But I'm not ready to jump off and completely sell all my Zach Wilson stock on this one. So, and look, apparently it was Rex Hogan and Mike LaFleur that were the driving force behind him being picked second. I had to say, this wouldn't be the first time a Rex has screwed over the Jets. Am I right?
Yes, you are. Forr, I don't know if you saw the chat, but we've got a listener, Juju, also name of the wide receiver, right? Forr, he asked, any idea what the quarterback situation should be, what the 49ers should do at quarterback next year? Rodgers, Carr, Brady, Lance, Jimmy, or Purdy? So I like the fact that he also thinks Brady is still out there. Come on, Forr, answer this for the listener.
Well, first off, Juju, thank you for the comment and great question. I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a question on a question here. I guess my thing is, if you're going to have any of the guys listed and it isn't Trey Lance, what are you going to do with Trey Lance? Because the 49ers organization just gave up all those draft picks to move up and acquire him. And if you in the front office have to admit that that was a fail already, and maybe you recoup a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick from maybe a Tennessee or a Tampa Bay, are you willing to admit that that was a fail already? So my thought is, I think they're going to keep Trey Lance regardless. I think that that's definitely a lock. So he's either going to be the backup or the starter heading into next year. And I could see a quarterback room between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, a battle of Mr. Irrelevant and almost the top pick in the draft. It's kind of a crazy take there. Gagan, do you have? You're probably going to go with a completely different answer. What's your take, Gagan?
Yes, and Juju, just so you know, I'm the voice of reason on this podcast. Forr might be the voice of podcast football, but I'm the voice of reason here. And look, you gave me a great list. Rodgers, Carr, Brady, Lance, Jimmy, or Purdy. Heck, let's go Rodgers, all right? I know Rodgers has said he doesn't believe he'll be a San Francisco 49er, or he's downplaying it. And maybe there's some truth to that. Rodgers is the pettiest quarterback in the NFL. And he also remembers that they passed on him and took Alex Smith from Utah instead of Rodgers, the hometown quarterback out of the University of Cal. All right? But if you're the Niners, I actually don't mind the Derek Carr pick either. Look, Carr, Fresno State quarterback, a return to the Bay Area could be fantastic to end his career. But if it's me, you got to go with Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, say bye-bye to Trey Lance. All right, just ship him for anything. Purdy, you got to keep, and you got to keep him just because Jimmy's work ethic, it can dwindle. Jimmy can get hot, he can get cold. So Purdy's there. But I do believe that Purdy is a second fiddle to Garoppolo. And that's just pure resume and pure talent. And Garoppolo also learned from Brady and Belichick.
See, and Gagan, I appreciate that take on it, but I look at it more like this. You've already burned the bridge with Garoppolo, right? You've already had a coach openly say that he's likely not back next year. That relationship's pretty much severed at this point, in my opinion. If they can work something out, maybe it's different. But I feel like you've already invested. You're too deep. You're too deep into the Trey Lance experiment. If you didn't trade up and you were able to just get him later on in the first round, maybe we're having a different conversation. But you gave up draft picks to acquire him. You knew he was going to be a project. I think that he's pretty much an essential lock at this point to remain on the roster, especially with him having no salary cap hit whatsoever. And I want to throw this out there. He is a very interesting quarterback prospect with his talent level. He can use his feet. He can use his arm. You could run some packages with him while still having a Brock Purdy out there. So I think you might be onto something here. We may have the quarterback or quarterbacks still already on the roster. San Fran got one game away from the Super Bowl this year. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. That said, the only thing broken this year, in terms of relationship was the Niners with Jimmy G.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Let me refute two things. First off, it doesn't matter what they gave up for Lance because that's a sunk cost. Okay, you cannot get those draft picks back. Say bye-bye to them. That's okay. You went all in on Lance. It hasn't panned out yet, and that's all right. The other part, Garoppolo, this relationship has been severed since they gave Jimmy the money. All right, there were reports that came out that once he got signed, he ghosted, which means he never talks to the Niners coaching staff that whole offseason. All right, so Garoppolo's been doing this for the longest time, and I'm sure that they have this pure professional relationship, if you want to call it that. All right, and I don't think Jimmy cares, nor his agent cares. And look, like I think it's one of those where they both have something to gain, they both have something to lose, and that's okay.
Well, I would probably put Jimmy Garoppolo back on the 49ers roster at under 10%, and that's probably even a little too high. But what I will give you is this. The point you just made in terms of that relationship's been severed for what? It feels like 3 years, right? I believe there were reports that came out following that overthrown pass by Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl in that fourth quarter against the Chiefs years back that there was no way he would return to the team after missing a moment like that. I think you're right. There is already a severed relationship. They've had a severed relationship. But if the adults in the room can come together and they feel like that is their best move, maybe he does return. I'd love to see those Vegas betting odds. But you might not be wrong. Yes.
Or is there any way we see Rodgers rocking the 12 in a Niner uniform?
Well, I guess we just kind of need to know what day of his darkness retreat he's on right now. I'd like to know if he's seeing any visions of red and gold, if he's seeing any Levi's Stadium in that darkness. I don't know. I think that it would be something. It's an all-in move. There's a possibility of this happening if you decide we're not going to pay Brock Purdy or we're not going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to move on from Brock Purdy. If they keep Trey Lance and they say, look, you're going to be our backup, they could potentially make a salary cap move on getting him, sure. And you could go in and have a 1 to 2 year run with Rodgers, go all in for the Super Bowl, and maybe Trey inherits the team after that. I mean, there's a real possibility that could happen. That's not that far-fetched. I'd give that higher odds than Jimmy Garoppolo returning.
Look, Forr, he will actually see something that will send him to the San Francisco 49ers. He might see a candle. All right. And that candle will be symbolic for Candlestick Park. All right.
That's not a bad take. I think you're spot on, though. I think there's something there. I think that's probably if the Niners do not go and want to start a quarterback that was on their roster this year, I think the obvious and logical quarterback that they would go after, the obvious upgrade would be Aaron Rodgers. So I don't think that's a bad take at all.
Agreed. And Forr, I got to read this comment to you, okay? Because, again, we mentioned earlier on the pod, we have a lot of San Francisco 49ers fans or West Coast podcast. And, okay, Juju had this comment. He said, either way, this next season is the run for the Super Bowl. Me as a Niners fan, we have luck getting to the NFC championships, but always lose. I think next year is a make or break for Lance or Purdy and any other free agent quarterback that the Niners might sign. Wow. What do you think?
I think that he's spot on. And I think it's interesting. He included, Juju included on his comment there that he's referencing strictly it being either Trey Lance or it's either going to be Trey Lance or it's going to be Brock Purdy. He's already kind of said goodbye to Garoppolo. And maybe Garoppolo heads to New York City. Maybe he's a Jet if they don't get Rodgers, or maybe Rodgers sees, he doesn't decide to go to Vegas and he takes his talents out to New York. We're kind of playing musical quarterbacks at this point in a sense of where they could end up, but they all impact each other. New York impacts San Francisco. San Fran impacts Vegas. These three teams are kind of in this triangle of who are going to get these players.
Oh, man. I think you're spot on. I really like Garoppolo to the New York Jets. For any of our new listeners, we've done quite a few segments on Garoppolo to the Jets. We have a YouTube video out, And we think that's the most likely position for him going to the Jets.
Yeah, and I don't know if Jets fans are going to like that too much, right? But that's just where we have it. I'd love to get some Jets fans' takes on that. We're obviously, I think that if you're the New York Jets, if you're a Jets fan, you're all in on Aaron Rodgers. I think that's just what it is. Your defense is ready to go. You just had Sauce Gardner, come out and win Rookie of the Year, and deservingly so. He's an absolute insane talent. You have a great defense that's led over there. They're a quarterback away from really having a shot to compete and win that division. Aaron Rodgers is the guy. That's who they should be all in on. Anyone else is going to feel like a disappointment.
Agreed. Ultimately, any team that wins Rodgers, whether it's for 1 season or 2 seasons, it's still better to have Rodgers than no Rodgers for 0 seasons, right?
I completely agree. Completely agree. You're understanding that the Green Bay Packers know their worth in a sense, but it's important for other teams like the Jets, like the 49ers, to also understand their worth. You're not getting Rodgers for 4 years. You're getting Rodgers for a season or 2. I'm a Buccaneers fan, and we knew when we signed Tom Brady, it was likely a year or 2. We got 3 out of it, but we knew the writing was there. And if we had to have traded for Tom, that would have been impacted in the trade details. So as long as the Jets aren't willing to give up too much, or San Fran doesn't feel they have to give up too much, what's a late round, first round pick?
Agreed, especially if you end up winning the Super Bowl or even a deep playoff run for any of those teams.
It's like the Rams going all in last season. I don't think any of their fan base is too sad that they had a rough year this year. They got a Super Bowl. Look, I just said I'm a Bucs fan. We got our Super Bowl. It's very similar to each other in the sense that we went all in. We understood the repercussions of it. Rams are dealing with it now. It looks like my Buccaneers, starting Kyle Trask or maybe Blaine Gabbert, are going to be dealing with it currently. So it's one of those things. But do we have any regrets over getting to hold the Lombardi? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and you can't take that away from you.
You cannot, and that's what it's all for. But Gagan, let me ask you. So we've been keeping up with the Super Bowl news all during our 14 days of Super Bowl mania, and I checked the betting line today multiple times. It's still sitting at the same line. Eagles remain -1.5 favorites. Gagan, is that weird to you that the line is staying the same the entire week leading up?
I don't think so. I think this is it makes sense. The Eagles are the better team. They should be the favorites, and it's a tight line, right? So this is about a field goal game is what they're saying, right?
That's fair. I got to ask, did you see Drake tried to move the line himself? He put $700,000 on Chiefs money line. This will net him over $1.4 million if the Chiefs do win. I got to ask you, does the Drake curse strike yet again in terms of, man, you do not want this man betting on your side?
Well, is he a professional bettor? Is he better than these sharps who move lines?
I wouldn't say that he is, but I would say, look, when you have those endorsement deals that allow you to put money down, it's a little bit different. You can go a little bit more with your bets, if that makes sense. You can have a little bit of fun with it. And look, he probably looks at the value and goes, man, I'm getting Patrick Mahomes at plus money. Very hard to turn that away.
The other part, you're right. It's experience too. It's his 3rd Super Bowl appearance. You've got to respect that. And what we've seen as well, we've seen the Rams lose and go back to the Super Bowl and use that previous experience. So I can see some value for your Chiefs. But man, my Eagles, -2. I've said it every day. I've said it even before the NFC title game. Eagles they're just deadly on defense, man. 70-plus sacks. The secondary, Jalen Hurts, the rushing attack, Coach Nick Sirianni, they're going to be ready.
I do think it's interesting that with all the news of the Chiefs players being sick, the mystery on the Patrick Mahomes injury, not a lot of news on if he's 100%, what he's feeling, that the line hasn't really moved. I mean, we knew about his injury, obviously, but now that we're hearing about players getting sick and trash talk between the Eagles, I just feel like the line staying the same is very indicative that the Chiefs have a real shot to win this game, regardless of if Mahomes is 100%. And honestly, if Mahomes was at 100. I think this is an absolute minus 115, minus 115 pick 'em. I think it goes right down the middle.
Well, I did see a crazy stat. They put up the exact same record. They put up the exact same points, total points scored in the league. This is a very identical team, a very identical matchup between the two. I don't know, man. I would say, though, Kansas City has a huge coaching advantage with the experience. But Coach Sirianni, he was let go by Coach Andy Reid, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. And if we know anything about Coach Nick Sirianni, this guy works hard, and he gets it done. Look at his brief stint in the NFL as a head coach, and he's doing well.
Well, Gagan, I think it's funny you just brought up Coach Sirianni because, as everyone knows listening, we do our podcast daily with the Daily Football Report. We come at you with content every single day. I just wanted to chime in with that because we've actually gone over who we thought were going to win all of the NFL Honors Awards that did occur tonight. And Gagan, I don't know if you want to do, be able to give some takes on this. I know we were kind of talking about what we were going to do, but if you're down, I would love to go over the NFL honors, the NFL awards of the years, man, because we actually did a very good job of predicting these.
Perfect. Yeah, start it off. What are we going with?
We can go ahead and start it off. It's interesting you brought this up. Coach of the Year. I think that was the one that we both actually I'm sorry, I missed on. You actually did not. You called that. I'm going to let you tell us who won Coach of the Year.
The Coach of the Year was Coach Brian Daboll, who we think is one of the best coaches in the league. And we've referenced him a lot. And, man, he really made Daniel Jones look really good up until the very final game against Philadelphia. Daboll had a great year, but we'll see if he can rebound next year, right, coming off the Philadelphia losses.
Absolutely. I was honestly shocked because I'm probably the biggest Nick Sirianni denier on Twitter. I think he's overrated. I think he's going to get exposed, but I have to look at things unbiasedly. And when I looked at the season he had, I couldn't see there being any way that Nick Sirianni did not win Coach of the Year. Honestly blew my mind, but congrats to Coach Daboll. Love him. Glad he did a lot of great work this year as well. There was honestly a lot of great candidates for Coach of the Year.
Agreed. It's just one of those leagues, man. There's the 32 positions, and a lot of these young coaches are starting off hot.
Absolutely. The next award, Gagan, that was announced was the AP Comeback Player of the Year award, which was won by Geno Smith. Gagan, we both had Geno winning the award. I think that we knew this mid-season. I mean, he would have had to have royally messed up to not have won this award. Him saying that they wrote him off, but he didn't write back. You just could not write a better script for a Comeback Player of the Year. Am I right?
Agreed. It's one of those storylines where reflecting on this season later on down the line when we do a flashback season segment and a flashback season episode, it's going to be really crazy. This was the year of Geno Smith. Seattle sneaking into the playoffs, Coach Pete Carroll and company. What a year. Yeah, good for him.
Absolutely. I'm going to take us into our next award here, Gagan, and this was kind of an upset. The AP Offensive Player of the Year was Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. And Gagan, I don't know if you want to give me a little bit of praise here or, let everyone know, but I was on the Justin Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year train all season.
Forr, I cannot believe you rightfully, correctly predicted that one. Good job.
Look, his season was fantastic. You know that they're typically going to give, the MVP award to a quarterback. We both picked Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP. Obviously, that is where, and everyone's aware of it now, that is where they went with it. He broke the single season passing yards record. It's hard to deny him an MVP award, even if there's an extra game thrown in there. But I will just want to give a minute to appreciate the season Justin Jefferson had. Truly remarkable. And he's really, really just next level, like the elite of the elite in the NFL. You've got to put Justin Jefferson's name there.
Yeah, he single-handedly won a lot of games for Minnesota.
That's 100% accurate. Just to give you kind of the quick rundown of everything, AP Defensive Player of the Year went to Nick Bosa, 49ers defensive end. I believe every sports book had this as an absolute lock. Like the odds were insane, minus like 5,000 to 1. Everyone knew Bosa was getting it. He had a fantastic season, and huge reason why the 49ers made it to where they were.
Yeah, yes, that Niners defense was just very well balanced. And the Eagles offense still racked up a lot of points.
Absolutely. And actually, we just got a great, fantastic comment from Kivante. I don't know if you saw it, Gagan, but he said, does the NFL have a most improved player? I feel like the phrase comeback player implies they had some success prior or come back from some kind of injury. Or some kind of low. I don't know. And you know what, Kivante, I completely agree with you. That's kind of the debate, right? Because if you're coming back, you're typically coming back from something. The argument against Geno Smith is, what did he come back from? Like, he just hasn't been good. That would be a most improved player award, which I agree with. I think there should be separate awards because a comeback implies kind of what Saquon Barkley did with the Giants when he was able to come back from injury and look amazing. Or you have guys that, Joe Burrow, when he had his awful knee injury and came back. Like, that's what a comeback player of the year is. Gagan, do you agree with Kivante on this take?
I get where he's coming from. I like the idea a lot. But I know exactly where Geno Smith came back from.
Where's that?
From the grave. All right. His career was about to be cemented as someone who never got to start again after his Jets career. And he came back and doing well. So props to him.
I think doing well is an understatement. I mean, if you truly look at his numbers this year and you look at the season that he had, like, I'm just going back to when I heard about the trade and when I heard about Russell Wilson leaving, and then I heard about the rumors that Seattle's kind of high on Geno Smith, and then everybody turned and it was, no, it'll be Drew Lock. It'll be Drew Lock. It's just a show. It's a smoke show. It's a smoke show. We get to preseason and Geno Smith is starting the preseason. It's just a smoke show. It's not really the truth. You're going to see week 1 when it's Drew Lock. Well, week 1 rolled around and it was Geno Smith. And not only did Geno Smith win the starting job, but he beat Russell Wilson outright. He got to the playoffs. The Broncos had the most disastrous season that I've seen in a very long time with the amount of hype that they had around them. Man, you couldn't write a better season for Geno. He deserved it based off the criteria. But I'm with Kivante. I need these to be broken up because I need to have a most improved player for guys like Geno Smith.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can respect that.
All right, Gagan. So we're going to go to the next award here. We had AP Offensive Rookie of the Year, which went to, drum roll, Garrett Wilson, Jets wide receiver. Gagan, what do you feel about Garrett Wilson winning it? I know you had Olave, correct?
I did have Olave. You had Wilson. This is from a segment in an episode we did a few weeks back. Forr, again, hats off to you. I'm tipping the cap. Great take.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was very close. If you look at Olave's numbers and Garrett Wilson's numbers, you could have given it to either one. I think that there's a little bit of a bias with the New York media that kind of influenced my pick. But I also wanted to say that I think he deserved a little bit of credit because he didn't have a starting quarterback in Andy Dalton, who pretty much played all year, whereas he was dealing with a rotating door at quarterback and still putting up impressive numbers on a pretty inept offense. So that was my only argument for Olave not winning it. But it could have came down to either one, and I don't think you could be disappointed either way.
Fair enough. What are we on to the MVP award?
We are on to the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. And Gagan, we're staying in New York. The Jets getting another award, this time with Sauce Gardner. Man, wow. Is this guy the next generation of corner or what?
He has been doing great. Amazing rookie season. Let's see what he can do the next season. But yeah, it looks like the Jets got to start winning a bit more awards, more team awards, it seems like.
They're looking good, man. I mean, you want to see that. The fact that they had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, I don't think that is talked about enough. Like, it just broke, obviously, but that's a very successful draft. You really need to feel good about where your organization is headed.
Agreed.
And I guess the only thing I would raise is I wonder if that has ever been done before. I don't know if it has, but that's something that I would love to look into. Along with that, New York football on the rise. Obviously, you've got the coach of the year with the New York Giants. You have offensive rookie and defensive rookie player of the year. Just a fantastic year for New York sports. Let me go ahead and get you the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. It went to Dak Prescott. Congratulations to Dak Prescott. I honestly don't know the criteria on this. I don't know if you do, but shout out to Dak. Probably a really, really good person.
It's about being like the best representative of the league and about community. And so let me just tell you, Russell Wilson also has that award, and it's that cape looking jersey, right? And my only thing is, I don't know how you can give it to Dak after him telling the Dallas Cowboys fans to throw items and taunt the referees. All right. So I don't know how he wins that.
I have no idea. I don't know enough about the award. I know it generally goes to somebody that was very charitable or somebody that did a lot of off-field work. So he probably did a lot of that. Congratulations. That is a great award to have. I know every team nominates somebody and they kind of figure out who was the best. But I wanted to say to your comment there, I just saw a comment that we had come in. I'm sorry, from Chivante. He said D'Amico Ryans for for the Assistant of the Year award. I did skip over that. I apologize. Mainly because I don't think on the pod here we're looking at D'Amico like he's an assistant coach. He's a very, very good coach. We're already seeing him in that head coach limelight, and I think a lot of Texans players are too.
Agreed. You're right. I feel like we witnessed him in the Texans gear before the Texans announced him, it seems like.
We did. We were also, on our coach, when we were talking about the coaching carousel episode that we dropped, you can find it on our Spotify episodes, our catalog that we have on Spotify. That's probably my favorite episode we've ever filmed, Gagan. I'm just being honest. This one's a close second. I'll tell you that. But our coaching episode where we were able to kind of predict right after the season ended all of the coaching transactions that would take place, who would be kept, who would be fired, where these names would go. I got to say, I'm pretty sure we had Sean Payton to Denver, and I'm pretty sure we had D'Amico to the Texans. Things are looking pretty good.
Agreed, Forr. I think the MVP award was announced tonight as well, right? Who got that?
Yes, and it went to everybody's favorite quarterback, Ben DiNucci. No, it went to Patrick Mahomes. Fantastic season, like we touched on. The reason the Chiefs have once again made it back, single season passing yards record shattered, 17 games. There's always going to be an asterisk. I think that's important to note. For every record that goes forward, there's an asterisk until there's more of these seasons than there were of the 16 game. But I honestly, man, shout out to Patrick Mahomes. It's very, very hard for me to sit on a podcast and give love to Patrick Mahomes. This pains me, Gagan, so I'll let you take over.
It pains the both of us, but what didn't pain me? Finishing up his mini docuseries. We put out a mini documentary earlier today on our YouTube for Patrick Mahomes, and it's just his career highlights and just a bit of a career overview. So go on and check that out. It's on the YouTube for Scene Sports, the number 4. But yeah, hats off to Mahomes. Great season. Let's see if he can cap it off with the second Super Bowl.
Yeah, look, I want to kind of give a little bit more light onto that. So, Gagan, you've started this, you kind of had this idea, which I think is fantastic, of NFL, why teams missed on NFL draft prospects. Guys that should have been no-brainers that were neglected, not taken where they should have been. The true, real number 1 picks of drafts that fall to the second, third, fourth, fifth round. You started your first episode with Jalen Hurts. You now have the Patrick Mahomes episode done. Something tells me we're probably going to have another episode drop in here shortly. So go subscribe to our YouTube and check it out once it drops. Turn on the bell for notifications. You'll get all our live videos that we're going to be dropping, including dropping our live pods on there too. So Go check it out. But that said, yeah, man, this is a fun, thing. We're really getting in towards draft season. I know we have the Super Bowl this weekend, and we're not overlooking that. But we used to kind of always treat the NFL draft as kind of like Christmas. I is weird. That's like the only comparison that I have. I mean, being a Bucs fan for about 15 years was really, really hard because we had one playoff game, and I had to look at the NFL draft season as my Christmas because for once a year, the future was bright, and we were going to get a brand new start with whatever decisions we made. And I guess that's the only thing I can really compare it to is it's such an exciting time for the players, for the teams, for the fan base. And we're really going to be deep diving into our draft content.
Yes, we're looking forward to that one. Forr, well, it seems like we're wrapping up the show. Do you have any final questions or final takeaways for tonight?
I don't, man. I think we covered everything in the NFL news today. Normally we have a topic as well, but there was just so much NFL news going on and Super Bowl stuff that we needed to discuss. But we're here every single day. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and TikTok. We're dropping all of our best clips as well. And we're coming at you with more content tomorrow night. I don't know if you want to tip the hat, Gagan, and let them kind of know about what we're going to be doing. It's a fun topic.
Forr, I'll let you take it away into the topic.
All right. Kind of hinted at it earlier, guys, but tomorrow's episode is going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be called Cusicle Chairs. And why is it called Cusicle Chairs? Because it's kind of the quarterbacks on the move. It's going to be quarterbacks we're going to have a list of quarterbacks that are currently unrestricted free agents, and we're going to be matching them up. And I believe our list is 13 teams that are all quarterback needy. And how we classified that is they don't have a quarterback that's a true bona fide starter. So obviously we have a lot of free agents, but not enough to fill all these teams, which means we're going to have some wild card ones, but we're just kind of predicting where everyone's going to be going. It's going to be an absolute blast of an episode. So we hope we can get everybody to tune in. Let us know where we go wrong. If your fan base absolutely hates our picks, we want to know. We just kind of want to get a pulse of the NFL nation.
Also, I believe, just to give a snippet, we are always open to collaborations. And as anyone knows, we've had some Philadelphia Eagles fans on before. And it appears that we might be able to get on another Philadelphia Eagles fan tomorrow. So we're coordinating that on our end. And, we got to work with the East Coast time zone. But it seems like we can't seem to find any Kansas City Chiefs fans because I don't know where they're at. Maybe they're all in Missouri.
Man, I used to live in Missouri, and I didn't see many either. I went to an NFL kickoff game, not to go on a tangent here, but I was at a Week 1 NFL kickoff game where the Alex Smith-led Chiefs at the time were battling the Jake Locker-led Titans. And I think the Titans maybe went 2 wins this entire year, but this happened to be one of them. And at halftime, the Titans were up, I think, by 14. The stadium was completely empty. So I guess kind of we have a challenge here. Can we get a Chiefs fan to show up and appear on this pod before the Super Bowl? Because I'm not sure they exist. It's like the Gonzaga of college basketball.
Wow. At least Kansas City gets it done, though, and that pains me to say as a Gonzaga basketball fan.
Hey, we're not taking any shots at Gonzaga at this time of year, man. March is right around the corner. We got to keep the vibes good.
Hey, that's a great take for it. You know what, though? Here's a tough comparison, and I might have to bring it up again. It's no secret that the Buffalo Bills are my secondary team. The thing is, the Buffalo Bills are the Gonzaga of the NFL, all right? Every year they're going to go deep. Every year you think they're going to win, and they do something to break your heart. Is that true? Is that fair?
First off, I just want to acknowledge we're on a football podcast, Gagan, called the Daily Football Report, and you just sat there and told me you have a secondary team. We don't allow secondary teams on here. I've just got to hold you accountable. You are a Panthers fan, sir. Do not be jumping ship. As a lifelong Buccaneer fan, it has been tough. But what I will say is you're right. The Bills constantly, you look at them, very similar to Gonzaga. A lot of national championship appearances, a lot of Super Bowl appearances. Nothing in the trophy case to really show. So very, very good comparison there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think on that note, it seems like every episode we are burning more and more bridges in the great state of Washington. And, I got to visit the family here in a few months, and might have to go in with like a cameo appearance or something.
We'll get you like a 12th fan jersey and a beanie, and we'll send you in, get you a Starbucks cup of Joe, and you'll look just right at home, man.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We appreciated even the new listeners that we had jumping in on Twitter Spaces. We do pods every day of the week. If you're intrigued or want to keep listening or want to give us feedback, we do air that feedback every episode. And we appreciate all the support and love. We're really rolling with this thing. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And as always, we're on Spotify and any other podcasting platform. And for the next few days, just for the Super Bowl, we will drop some episodes on YouTube as well, just for a bonus treat. And man, we put out content. We put out 3 YouTube videos a day and 3 TikToks a day. And we love doing what we do. So thank you for all of our listeners. We appreciate it.